Hello, and welcome to this presentation of WandaVision. In this program, we will be creating an outfit worthy of the red carpet, inspired by Wanda Maximoff. Please continue to tune in as we go from draping, patterning, and assembling this look for Scarlet Witch of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The first episode of this program will be designing the look and creating the pattern. The design will feature a fitted bodice and a skirt. They will be made up of 2 shades of red silk fabric. Adding another dimension to the look are the pants, which will be exposed by the split front skirt. The pants will be made up of black fabric featuring a hexagon, which is an ode to Wanda's past experiences. Over the entire outfit will be a layer of fine silk gauze, which will be dyed a deep red. A unique feature of this costume will be the one side of the bodice, which slips off the shoulder and creates a poofy sleeve. This sleeve and the gauzy overlay is inspired by the powers of Wanda. To create the pattern, fabric is draped on a dress form in the size of the model. Once the desired lines have been draped, the pieces are sewn together and it is tried on to perfect the final fit. Once this fit is perfected, the mock-up is cut apart and traced, which creates the final pattern. We can now move on to episode 2. The gauze is dyed red with oxblood red dye and a smidge of black. I'm making the lower bodice with both silk fabrics, but then at the top of the pattern pieces, I'm leaving out the solid fabric and just having the sheer fabric continue the pattern. I decided on a triangle-based skirt design, which means I can rip my fabric into squares, which honestly is the best option to get a straight cut with these slippery fabrics. And then I cut diagonally across the square to create triangles. Oh, hey guys! So I've got all the pieces cut out here and we're just gonna start assembling them. There's a lot going on, but it's gonna be so groovy. But we've got the pieces. I not only have the sheer stuff going on, that's gonna be the outer layer, but there's also 2 different colors of red that I've got going on, alternating across the bodice. So we've got a darker one, and then the lighter is gonna be the side front and the side back pieces, and then the rest is the dark. And then we've got the sheer overlay, which is across the entire thing, but it's also in slightly different shapes because I've got some sheer bits going up on the neckline. So there's a lot of different size pattern pieces, but we not only have those 2 layers, I also am doing an interlining of this heavy silk fabric that I've got, and then also a lining of cotton. So it's just time to assemble it. Oh, and also with these pieces, we've got the off the shoulder bit that's gonna happen. And so the sheer overlay has some nice extra fabric to create that poofy look. So a lot of different stuff going on. We've got the pants cut out, we've got the skirt, and the skirt's made up of 12 triangles, and they're just varying lengths to give a kind of a raggy, shaggy look. So I'm pretty excited about that, and so we're just gonna move on to episode 3 and start sewing it all together. Before assembling the bodice, all the layers of each pattern pieces need to be basted together. I'm hand basting this because the 2 outer layers of fabric are just very flimsy and slippery. So with how they behave, even though this is time consuming, it really is the best option. I cut the gauze quite a bit larger than my pattern because I find it easier to get the grain all straight and lined up as I'm doing the basting process, and then after I'm done basting, I trim off that extra gauze. For the pants, I'm adding these V-shapes along the leg. When I was cutting out the pattern, I kind of forgot about this. So I'm cutting the desired lines and then I'm recutting some of those pieces, adding the extra seam allowance that's needed. For the V detail, I'm putting a strip of each of the solid red fabrics. So I cut the strips on a bias so they would have some stretch. The legging fabric is a stretchy fabric, and I don't want to inhibit the stretch of the fabric by adding these V's. I'm now sewing these layers together to keep everything in place. For sewing, I'm using a stretchy nylon thread, again so I don't inhibit the stretch of the main fabric. Now that I have this red V detail attached, I can sew the V seams together. After getting this detail attached, I can now fully assemble the pants and also the skirt. So we've got the bodice attached all together, and now we just need to do some final touches to the whole thing, like add some boning and finish the bottom edge and attach the skirt. And the pants are actually gonna be separate from the bodice and the skirt. And so you'll put on the pants and then there'll be the skirt and bodice that you put on over those pants. And then we're gonna put a zipper in. We're just gonna tidy up all the raw edges and hopefully get it to a wearable state in the next episode. So for the boning, I'm using synthetic whalebone, and then for the channels, I'm placing twill tape along the seams. I'm attaching the twill tape to just the seam allowances of all these seams, so I don't get any stitch lines on the outside of the bodice. We've got a lot going on, and I changed some things. The sheer bits that I was originally planning, like down here and then up here. As I was working with those pattern pieces, the sheer gauze just wasn't holding up well with those seams, and just it was stretching weird, and it was just overall adding a lot of busyness to the whole look. And so I nixed those, and I ended up remaking a couple of these panels so that they're just full both fabrics. But we're still gonna do the top neckline thing and the little V that I've got going on in the drawing. And then we still got this going on. This is just pinned up right now. I'm gonna try to figure out how to get that looking good and just get the overall feel that I'm wanting to get with that. So we're just gonna go ahead and do all that and see where we end up. I got the armholes and top edge of the bodice all tacked down to secure these raw edges in place, and then the bottom edge is attached to the skirt, and then also there's an invisible zipper at the back. And then I did attach the lining, it's just not shown. For the strips of solid fabric creating the off-the-shoulder design, I'm hemming the edges, but I'm making this hem wide enough so that this thin plastic boning can be inserted in that hem and create some structure for the sleeve. This boning is also continuing off the strips and going into some of the boning channels of the actual bodice. This will help keep the sleeve boning stable and in place. So for the actual draping of the sleeve, which is just going to be the gauze fabric, I had such a hard time. I rearranged it so many times and it just wasn't looking right, especially for my symmetrical brain. This asymmetrical off-the-shoulder design was just messing with my brain. So I was originally trying to make it more angled up like my drawing, but after many failed attempts, it started falling more off the shoulder, and then I had this brilliant person come in and suggest a more sloping line from the top of the other shoulder across the bodice and onto the sleeve, and also maybe leave some of the ends hanging off. This brilliant person was my mom, and I might have been a little bit stubborn and didn't want the ends hanging off, but then after playing with it and doing more playing with it and more, leaving those ends actually really helped draw everything together, so thank you, Mom. After everything was draped, I tacked it all together with many small invisible stitches, and we can call this project complete. sewing it all together.
I'm so sorry, guys. I kind of couldn't help myself with that accent. I don't know how I kept it up for that long.